Hello everyone, Danny here. No XTR today, no carbon, no titanium. We have a budget bike and I've got a nice topic for you. 3 things that a budget mountain bike doesn't have. I'm gonna start with just basic features. I'm not gonna use any terms like tapered steerer or BSA bottom bracket because I want to make it basic for those who want to have 101 guide, and then after that I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the features if you guys, my subscribers who know more about bikes, are interested in those. So this is mountain bike which would cost you about $300. This is GT Palomar with the aluminum frame, and most of the bikes on this price level will have similar features. So why am I talking about 3 things this mountain bike doesn't have? Because there are some things you should not expect from this bike, and here is number 1. Standard in mountain bike industry nowadays are the disc brakes, hydraulic disc brakes. On such a bike you won't have disc brakes. These are the V brakes. Please do not buy budget mountain bikes with plastic brakes. There should be no plastic. These should be made of some kind of aluminum, most likely. So both the levers and your brakes right here, the calipers, should be made of metal. No plastic. Plastic is bad. Plastic is dangerous. But a budget bike will not have disc brakes. If you buy a bike and you think about upgrading it in the future, it's good to look at the frame, whether it will be disc brake compatible. This one is not, so I cannot put disc brakes in the future on the frame. But this fork has the option of putting the disc brake on it, so I can remove the V brakes and put the disc brake on this fork. So this is feature number 1, and yes, these V brakes can be powerful enough for some basic mountain riding even. Number 2 will be the drivetrain. You're not gonna get on such a bike a drivetrain which will be, I would say, shock proof. So if you wanna ride in the mountains, on the high speed, on the rocks, and so on the bumpy, gnarly trails, this drivetrain will not be very good for that. Because, for example, the rear derailleur here is the Shimano Tourney. It has a very weak, very soft spring, and it won't hold the chain well, which means the chain will be hitting the chain stays, but also sometimes it can drop. So the chain drop will happen much more often on such a drivetrain comparing to the drivetrain on the bike, which would cost $600. Otherwise, it will give you quite nice range of the gear. So you can go up the hill. You can go, let's say, for about 40 kilometers per hour down the hill. So you will be happy with that. It will be okay. But it's just not as bulletproof as the modern mid-range price drivetrains. Okay, and then number 3 is the suspension. On such a bike, in my opinion, I would much rather want to have a rigid fork than such a fork, because this is a coil spring fork, very basic one, with no features like rebound or any adjustments. And the adjustments are the keys here. Why so? Because mountain bike for $300 will be very often made for youths, for teenagers. I'm not a teenager. My weight today is 74 kilograms, and this is way too soft for me. So I'm able to bottom out this fork even by simply pushing to the handlebars. That means this fork on a gnarly trail for me is dangerous. And I cannot set up the spring for my weight here. So this is an important factor. That would, of course, be the options of upgrading, the ideas for upgrading in the future. So if you're going to buy such a bike to your kid, it's a great idea. Is it worth the price? Yes, it is. Hell, it is. Because my first mountain bike, when I was 12 years old, it wasn't even near as good as this one. But just know, the brakes, the drivetrain, maybe most likely, the most important, the suspension at the front will be the limitation of this bike. So the first thing I would replace on this bike would be the fork. I'm not sure whether I would buy an air suspension fork or maybe rigid fork, but these are the three limitations. Now for those who are interested in more features, here it is. We've got no tapered steering tube. That means we've got 1/1/8 inch steerer. That means less precision, less stiffness. We have no integrated spindle on your crankset. That means these are 3 pieces: right crank arm, the bottom bracket with the axle, and then the left crank arm. That means less stiffness and less precision. Even if you just spin backwards with these pedals, you will see the crankset moving a little bit, and it's normal at such a price. So don't expect too much precision and stiffness on this one. And in the rear wheel, you're not gonna have the cassette, you're gonna get the free hub, which is outdated, pretty much outdated, heavy, outdated, and not compatible with any upgrades. It's not going to give you any options of upgrading the cassette on the rear. And most likely such a bike will have 27.5 inch wheels rather than 29er, because it is heavy, pretty heavy, 14.3 kilograms without the pedals. If it was a 29er, that would be much heavier. It would be just too heavy. So these are the main features, my friends. And man, when I was 12 years old and I was given such a bike, it would be an amazing bike. My bike, which I told you a couple of times, was $200, $180. Something like that. I loved it. I started racing cross country on such a bike. I learned many technique stuff, mountain bike technique on such a bike. So this one will be great. And in the future, I'm gonna tell you more about how to upgrade such a bike if you see that your kid is really loving mountain biking. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and see you soon. Bye bye.